So, in part 1 of the video lecture, I have told you about the first principle of natural justice, that is, no man can be a judge of his own case. Now, the second part of the principle of natural justice is audi alteram partem, right of being heard. But in one of the videos, while explaining administrative discretion, I had told you that there can be two conceptions of principles of natural justice. One is a narrower sense, and one is a broader sense. In a narrower sense of principle of natural justice, we usually refer to two main parts of principle of natural justice. So the no man can be judge of his own case and audi alteram partem. But in a broader sense of principle of natural justice, if any of the procedural elements is not followed and it leads to miscarriage of justice, then we include that element also as one of the principles of natural justice. For example, a representation of your case in a dispute. That representation can be by a legal practitioner of any person of your choice. Legal practitioner in cases where there is a formal trial, and representation of a person of your choice when there is administrative inquiries and proceedings. Second would be the availability of cross examination. So, when you have received a legal practitioner, if your advocate or your counsel has not been given the right to cross examine the witness from the other side, then it would lead to miscarriage of justice. But one question is, when we take principle of natural justice in a broader sense, is it always necessary that you get a representation of a legal practitioner, that you get a representation of a person from of your choice, that you get the availability of cross examination of the witness? Now, this question can be answered with the help of three cases which are given in your case material. Now, the part of audi alteram partem as a separate and distinct principle of natural justice will be discussed in Menaka Gandhi. I will discuss this case jointly for constitutional law lecture and administrative law lecture. So that video will be coming up after this video. Now we come to the very first essential, that is representation. Can representation by a legal practitioner be always available to a person, or the representation of the choice of a person is always available to the person in the inquiry, and whether cross examination shall always be available? Now, the facts of the case given in your case material is that there was a person employed in Haryana Civil Services and there was a administrative inquiry against him. The authority was given a discretion whether to allow a legal practitioner or not. This discretion was available in cases where the disciplinary proceeding will lead to removal of the person from the service. Now, the court in this case said that when there is a discretion provided to the authority, then such discretion has to be used in a manner in which there is no miscarriage of justice by the denial of the real opportunity of being heard. Now, the word is real opportunity of being heard. For example, if the party of the authority is represented in this matter by a person who is well versed with law, will it not be a miscarriage of justice when the person who is under the inquiry is not given a person of the same repute to represent the facts of his own case? Therefore, we go to the judgment. So, the main issue in this case is that at the stage of inquiry, the permission to engage the services of the lawyer were rejected. So, therefore, the court in this case referred to Pett versus Greyhound case, in which it was said that the court favored such a right where a serious charge had been made which affected the livelihood or the right of a person to pursue an avocation and observe. I should have thought, therefore, that when one man's reputation or livelihood is at stake, he not only has a right to speak by his own mouth, he also has a right to speak by a counsel or a solicitor. Later on, the court referred to the rule of the Haryana Civil Services, and it stated that if the charge or charges are likely to result in the dismissal of the person from the service of the government, such person may, with the sanction of the inquiry officer, so there is a discretion provided, be represented by the counsel. So when the discretion has to be exercised is the question to be dealt with here. Now, one fact to be remembered is that the corporation, which is the authority on the side, was represented by a man of law. Now, on the question of discretion, it says that this rule vests discretion. So, may with the prior sanction. In the matter of exercise of discretion, one of the relevant factors is whether there is a likelihood of the combat being unequal. So, if there is a dispute between two parties, then both parties have to be given equal opportunities and have to be treated equally. So that if they are treated as unequal, it will entail a miscarriage or a failure of justice and a denial of real and reasonable opportunity for defense by the reason of the appellant being pitted against a presenting officer who is trained in law. Further, they refer to one of their own decisions, that is Board of Trustees versus Dilip Kumar. It says, in our view, we have reached a stage in our onward march to fair play in action. So, principle of natural justice is also known as fair play in action. That where in an inquiry before a domestic tribunal, the delinquent officer is pitted against a legally trained mind, so there is inequality. If he seeks permission to appear through a legal practitioner and refusal to grant this request would amount to a denial of a reasonable request to defend himself, and the essential principles of natural justice would be violated. Further, they say, in view of the fact that the presenting officer was a person with legal attainments and expertise, the defending person may tend to become nervous and tongue tied. The refusal of the service of a lawyer in the facts of this case results in the denial of natural justice. Therefore, the crux of the matter is you will be getting a legal representation by a legal practitioner when the other party is having a legal representation by a legal practitioner in an administrative inquiry to treat both the parties as equal. Now we come to the next ground. Now, can there be a representation by a person of choice? As a principle of natural justice, you can choose your own person to be defended by. But the question is, how far does it extend? For this matter, you have another case, and the facts are that for a dispute relating to industrial establishments, there are certain model rules of conduct which are framed by the government. Now, the model rules of conduct are valid for a period of 6 months, so they are temporary. And based on the model rule of conduct, a draft rule is then formed. And then the draft rules are then finally certified by the authorities. So they become binding. Now, this is a case in which the model rules mention that a member of a trade union can represent a person under inquiry. But the draft rules, which came out after the model rules, mentioned that that particular member shall be a member of the same corporation in which the worker under the inquiry is occupied. Now, the question came up is whether this change in the rule was arbitrary or it can be presumed to be fair. Again, explaining that if the provision said that the member representing the person under inquiry shall be a member of a trade union, then it is not always a situation that such a member will be a member of that corporation. He can be a member of another corporation, a workman of another corporation. So when the draft rules were changed, the workmen of the same corporation will be representing the workmen under inquiry. So let us see what the court has said in this case. So the issue here is the same which I told you, that representation of an employee in the disciplinary proceedings through another employee who, though not an employee in the appellant corporation, was nevertheless a member of the trade union, is it valid? So the necessary statements, paragraph 8 and paragraph 9. So these are the model standing rules, orders. So workmen shall be entitled to appear in person or to be represented by an office bearer of a trade union of which he is a member. Now they were changed by the draft standing orders which were later certified that workman that permitted to be defended by a fellow workman of his choice who must be an employee of the corporation. So the clause is then restricted. So it was much more wider, now it has become a narrower clause. So this is the difference between the orders. So what the court has said. So the important paragraph in this case is that the only embargo is that the representative should be an employee of the parent establishment. The choice of the delinquent in selecting his representative is affected only to the extent that the representative has to be a co employee of the same establishment in which the delinquent is employed. So, the question now is whether this clause is arbitrary or there is some reason for it. The court says there appears to be some logic behind this, as a co-employee would be fully aware of the conditions prevailing in the parent establishment, including the standing orders, and would be in a better position than an outsider to assist the delinquent in the domestic proceedings for a fair and early disposal. So, one point I would ask you to remember is that under the principles of natural justice, it is not always a situation that if a particular procedural requirement is restricted or modified, there is no fair play. There can be situations under which a particular procedure is removed or restricted in order to ensure fairness. And this is one of the examples, that the restriction of the model rules by the draft rules is ensuring a fairer procedure. Now we come to the third factor, that is cross examination. So, cross examination is one of the principles of procedural justice which is available to both the parties. Now, in the case of disciplinary proceedings, is it always necessary that a cross examination shall take place? So, one of the cases which is important to understand this situation is provided in your case material. Now, the fact is, there was a boys' hostel and a girls' hostel side by side. Now, the boys committed certain acts of indecent behavior or molestation against the girls. So, the administration invited both the parties and heard both the parties separately. Both the parties were never placed in the same room for countering their questions. The accused were provided with show cause notice explaining the allegations, and then finally they were ordered to be expelled from the institution for a period of 2 years. The fact of the case display no evidence of any bias, but the students who were expelled then went to the court and claimed that the witnesses were not examined in their presence and they did not receive the right of cross examining the witnesses. Hence, the final order of the disciplinary authority is vitiated by the absence of principles of natural justice. In this particular case, some very important observations have been made. Now they refer to Board of Education versus Rice. This is the very first case which I have talked about in the lectures of Principles of Natural Justice. The requirement which was laid down in this case was that when an authority is to decide, then they have to decide in good faith, that is fairly, and they have to hear the parties. But nowhere we see that the right of cross examination may be compulsorily available in these inquiries. Can there be a ground on which it can be said that even under the absence of cross examination, a procedure can be fair under good faith, and also there has been enough or effective hearing of the parties? The court then said that there is no straitjacket formula for application of principles of natural justice. Whether a procedure shall be available or not depends on four grounds. Number one, circumstances of the case. Number two, nature of the inquiry. Number three, rules under which such an action is taken. And number four, the subject matter of the inquiry. In this particular case, the girls of the hostel had come up and complained against the rogue boys. Now, if the boys were allowed to cross examine those girls, or their representatives were allowed to cross examine, then it would have been led to an absurdity. The case shows the reason why such an opportunity was not given to the boys. So, let's see the case. So the case is Hiranath Mishra versus Principal Rajendra Medical College. So the question was, they were not examined in their presence, the witnesses, and they were not available for cross examination also. Now, this paragraph 9 is important, where it says that the doctrine of natural justice cannot be imprisoned within a straitjacket or a rigid formula, and its application depends upon several factors. So, what are those several factors? We'll come to it. See, the court says we think that under circumstances of the case, the requirement of natural justice were fulfilled. How? The names had been specifically mentioned in the complaint, and not to leave anything to the chance, the committee obtained photographs of the four delinquents and mixed them up with 20 other photographs of the students. Then they also refer to Board of Education versus Rice. Now, in this particular case, Lord Loreburn stated that the Board of Education was under a duty to act in good faith and to listen fairly to both sides. He did not think that the board was bound to treat such a question as though it were a trial. So, when the board is deciding this as a disciplinary proceeding, it is not to be equated as a trial. The board need not examine witnesses. So, the requirement of examination of witnesses can also be done away with. Further, they refer to Russell versus Duke of Norfolk, and it says no words which are of universal application to every of kind of inquiry. So what is meant is that the inquiry is not equal to a trial, and different inquiries may have different application of principles. Further, the important paragraph, that the requirements of natural justice must depend on circumstances of the case, nature of the inquiry, rules under which the tribunal is acting, and the subject matter that is being dealt with. So, the court in this case, on the sensitivity of the matter involved, however unsavory the procedure may appear to the judicial mind, these are the facts of life which are to be faced, because care is taken to see that the witnesses who gave statements would not be identified. In such cases, there is no question of the witness being called and the Gunda being given an opportunity to cross examine the witness. The reason is obvious: no witness will come forward to give evidence in the presence of the Gundas. So they have referred to Gunda acts which were there, and no principle of natural justice was followed in those acts because of the protection of the witnesses. So, with this, we finish the three cases. So, the conclusion will be that you can get a legal practitioner of your choice. You can also get a person to defend, to represent you of your choice. However, it can be restricted in a manner to ensure more fairness. Right of cross examination shall not always be present in any disciplinary proceedings. Now, the second part of the principle of natural justice, the second major part of the principle of natural justice, is dealt with in Menaka Gandhi. and we will discuss the case in the next video.